Harry and Meghan Markle's Netflix documentary series Hearts of Invictus been canceled by Netflix. Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we are talking about the reports regarding Harry, Meghan, and their production company, and whether or not their latest project for Netflix, their current overlords, has been canceled or not. There's been rumors swirling over the last couple of weeks, and Newsweek has been able actually to confirm with Netflix about the status of this project going forwards. And they've confirmed that yes, it is going ahead. It has not been canceled. And I think I have a couple of ideas of why Netflix hasn't gone down that route yet. But also at the same time, why I think the future of Harry and Meghan's deals with the streaming giant are still in big trouble. But if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, like I said, my name is Brittany and I provide compelling royal commentary on this channel. So if you would love to subscribe, that would be fantastic. I also have a weekly newsletter, Royal Wire, where I break down the breaking royal news of that week. I also have a fashion channel if you love royal fashion. I just did a breakdown, a history of the Queen Mary's Lovers Not tiara. So that's the tiara Catherine wears most often. And then I also have a upcoming trip to Germany and Austria, and I still have some spots left and only have a couple weeks till the trip officially closes. So if you're thinking about that, interested, feel free to check it out in the link down below. And just for fun, we did have an engagement yesterday with Prince William and Duchess Sophie. So Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, they went to the Rhino Man screening together. This is the first time that we've had Prince William and Sophie do an engagement solo together. And I guess he was introducing everyone to Sophie, saying, "This is my Aunt Sophie." So go ahead and take a listen here and you can hear just a smidge of that.
Have you shown anywhere else yet?
This is the first time we've seen it.
It's very nice to see
All right, guys, I just love that warm relationship between Sophie and William. And honestly, she looks so stinking good. She could be his wife. Not saying that they actually are, but she looks incredible for her age. I think Sophie is an amazing asset to the royal family, as is Anne, as is the Gloucesters, the Kents. They've done so much for the royals in addition, obviously, to the Waleses and Charles and Camilla. And so I just think right now, in terms of the royal team that they have, I think would be great. Like I've said in a previous video, I think Beatrice would be a wonderful addition to add some much needed youth, as well as I'm sure Princess Alexandra and the Duke of Kent will probably retire from royal duties pretty soon because they're both pushing 90. And the Duchess of Kent is actually already retired and she is 90. So I think we'll see a lot of change coming up soon, and I would just love Beatrice to join. I think she'd be a fantastic asset. But it was just, again, so fun to see William and his Aunt Sophie, which I just thought was so cute. It's just so cute, isn't it? And we also have some updated news from the National Portrait Gallery. It is reopening after a massive refurbishment. Every time I've gone over there, it's just been crazy busy, and Catherine will be there. Usually a lot of her events regarding the National Portrait Gallery have been in the evening. So if you are in London, feel free to head over there because they've given us some time here. So there, I think, will be a good opportunity for people to gather. I think they're expecting that and hoping for that as well. Not guaranteeing there'll be a walkabout, but if you're in London next week, feel free to go ahead and check that out. I believe it's on the 20th, so that is super exciting as well. And we also have the King and Queen of Bhutan. They're expecting their third child, so maybe perhaps they're expecting a little girl. They have 2 boys, and it would just be great to have a girl, although if they do have another child and it's another boy, he would actually be ahead of her in the line of succession as it goes through the men first. But back to this whole Prince Harry and Meghan Markle Invictus Games debacle. I will say, first off, I went to the Invictus Games in 2016 because it was in Orlando, Florida. It was close to where I was living at the time, and I honestly had a great time. It was wonderful to support the troops. So go ahead and take a listen to part of Harry's intro video here, and this is video I actually took. So go ahead and take a listen.
Twice. I served alongside soldiers from all over the world. I saw the sacrifices you and your families made to serve your nations. I learned about the importance of teamwork and camaraderie in a way that only military service can teach you. And when I travelled back from the battlefield on a plane carrying the body of a Danish soldier and 3 young Brits fighting for their lives, I began to understand the real permanent cost of war. I joined the army because, for a long time, I just wanted to be one of the guys. But what I learned through serving was that the extraordinary privileges of being a prince gave me the extraordinary opportunity to help my military family. And that's why I had to create the Invictus Games, to build a platform for all those who have served, to prove to the world what they have to offer. Over the next 4 days, you will see things that in years past just wouldn't have been possible. You will see people who by rights should have died on the battlefield, but instead they are going for gold on the track or in the pool.
All right, guys, and you can tell in the crowd, he's getting a huge response from everyone. He's talking about sacrifice and service, and he also talks a bit about mental health. So go ahead and take a listen to this longer clip here as well.
Single one of them will have confronted tremendous emotional and mental challenges. When we give a standing ovation to the competitor with the missing limbs, let's also cheer our hearts out for the man who overcame anxiety so severe he couldn't even leave his house. Let's cheer for the woman who fought through post-traumatic stress. Let's cheer for the woman who fought through post-traumatic stress, and let's celebrate the soldier who was brave enough to get help for his depression. Over the next 4 days, you will get to know these amazing competitors. They weren't too tough to admit that they struggle with mental health. They weren't too tough to get help that they needed. To all of those of you watching at home and who are suffering from mental illness in silence, whether a veteran or a civilian, a mum or a dad, a teenager or a grandparent, I hope you see the bravery of our Invictus champions who have confronted invisible injuries. And I hope you're inspired to ask for the help that you need.
Are great things to hear because there is a great foundation and basis behind the Invictus Games. I truly enjoyed the sitting volleyball. I thought it was wonderful. I had a great time. Swimming wasn't quite as fun, but it was awesome to see these soldiers, these veterans had this wonderful opportunity. Everybody was cheering them on. I think Orlando was in particular a fantastic place to hold this because they have the ESPN World Center, so they have a ton of fields and facilities, and obviously as well for the families, they can go there and they can go to Disney World. So it was a great opportunity for everybody to come together, and I think everyone had a wonderful time, and it was a project I was excited about continuing support for Harry, because for me, there's just something when it comes to military stuff, I just bawl. So I will listen to there's a part of Eisenhower's speech. They do an overlay with footage of World War II for World War II in HD. This was a History Channel project that happened years and years ago. I hear that and I see the images and I just start to tear up and cry. So this is just a little bit because I can't show the whole thing because of copyright, because I actually included it in a video once and I got a copyright strike and I had to remove it. And I was just very sad because I think it's excellent. So go ahead and take a listen to a little bit of this here.
The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you.
So I just think that supporting our military troops is so stinking important, so amazing. And in other circumstances, a documentary about some of the members of the Invictus teams and stuff would be, I think, something that would capture the public's imagination. But the Invictus Games has a huge problem, and it's its patron, Prince Harry, and especially his wife, Meghan Markle. They have sort of wrecked this whole thing. And again, it started out great, but then he invited her to participate in part of the Toronto game and observe things with him. And so the Invictus Games went from being about the soldiers to being this sideshow with Harry and Meghan. Now, I understand he wanted to invite her to it, but all the reports that you saw went from being about the soldiers to being about Meghan, his new girlfriend, and oh, he's bringing her over here. Oh my goodness, it's so exciting. And then we get to Dusseldorf. And that's when the ratcheting of Meghan's attention seeking and this Invictus Games being more about Harry and Meghan parading around, especially Meghan, in very expensive clothes, ratcheted up to 11. And I think the thought and appeal behind the Invictus Games documentary, the intention behind it is getting masked in the attempt to monetize it in a way it wasn't before. Yes, the Invictus Games needed to make money to support itself. But now it seems like it's there to support the bank balances of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, especially to give to Meghan's wardrobe. I calculated it out at the time that according to what I could figure out, now I wasn't able to establish everything, that she spent about $65,000 on new clothes for 2.5 days. Everything she wore pretty much was brand spanking new. She also debuted a Justin Clos necklace from Cartier, which those things, depending on how many diamonds were in there and everything, could range from about 15 grand to upwards of 40 grand for a single necklace at a charity event. And it's not just that she wore an expensive necklace, because obviously a lot of royals do that, but it was that this is something where she didn't have that necklace before. It's not an inheritance piece. So when Catherine wears, perhaps you could say she wore to an engagement one time, and I don't know how to pronounce the name of this necklace, so you'll have to excuse me. I'll put it there down below, but she wore this very, very grand necklace that belonged to the Queen. But it's not like she went out and bought this necklace, which probably cost 6-7 figures. No. It's something that's been in the royal family for a while. Meghan went out for a charity event and bought a 5-figure necklace for reasons. And she looked very much attention seeking. Every outfit was brand new. She walked in this brand new Valentino suit outfit, which looked terrific on her because it wasn't cut, like she can never wear anything correctly. Like every time she picks an outfit, I was like, you just picked the worst outfit for your body type. Every single time. And then even in the opening ceremony where she wore this huge necklace, she had to give Harry a big old smack on the lips. And it was so tight that you could see like a roll of her stomach and stuff. It just wasn't flattering. And even she wore jeans that cost $600. Everything was outrageously expensive that she wore. And you look at that and you go, why? You could rewear everything. You should rewear everything for this project. That you didn't seems to scream to me that this is not about the charity. It's about your fashion show. You get to have a fashion show because you can't go on royal tours anymore. That's basically been poo-pooed. You can't really do all the things that you wanted to do perhaps anymore. You have to have this little bit more of decorum where you're kind of acting like a royal, kind of not. You want to be a celebrity and yet you're kind of not acting like they're in all these weird spaces. And so to come in to this event wearing 65 grand at least worth of new clothing for the sole reason of what? Promoting your husband's charity? But it should be charity. So rewears would be totally fine. Now, perhaps maybe she had some of this before, but again, it just smacks of and screams of new money. I want attention. Look at me. This is my chance to get attention rather than it being focused on the soldiers. And I think that's rather reprehensible. So when it comes to the Hearts of Invictus, it's already going with a severe crutch, and that is Harry and Meghan. It's not the soldiers in the film, it's the patrons who fund this thing. Because unfortunately right now, Harry and Meghan are not appealing to people. Newsweek, even though it confirmed that yes, the project is going forward, also said that, well, Harry's not that popular and he actually might elicit more sympathy for the press than for his and Meghan's plight. That is how bad things are going for them right now. Yet they continue on this Invictus track and not do the smart thing, which is to give it up and give it to somebody who has credibility in this space, because that is gone for Harry and Meghan. I was also very annoyed that our military, the United States military, keeps indulging Harry's whims of fantasy that he's still a working royal and has any right to be within any American public space when it comes to the military, because he recently went to the Warrior Games in San Diego and he gave a speech. And I'm like, why is this guy giving a speech? He doesn't represent any aspects of honor that the military does. He's a coward. He ran away from his problems rather than dealing with them. He couldn't handle criticism. He couldn't handle tough situations, and so he abandoned family and friends. And do you know what, as a soldier, you don't do is you don't abandon your unit. You serve, even when it's tough, even when the bullets are flying and everything is challenging. You stay there because you are a soldier, and that is what you signed up for. And you serve because that is what it means to be a member of a military force. And if every soldier on the battlefield abandoned his post when things got a little challenging, people would just run your military over. And so Harry, I think, represents the worst aspects. To me, he's a coward, because you could spend more time, you could try to figure out how to work within the system, or you could go away and live quietly as they claim to. But that's not what they've done. And because of this, there has been rumors and talks that perhaps they had canceled the Hearts of Invictus, which was always scheduled for this summer. But that hasn't happened yet. And I understand a couple reasons why, and Newsweek has actually confirmed that yes, it is still going ahead this summer at some point. So let me read you some of the quotes from the Newsweek piece. It says, no further information about the show has been officially released. However, when contacted by Newsweek on June 14th, representatives for Netflix said that the information in the January announcement was still correct and accurate. Therefore, viewers can expect the show to hit screens in the coming months, although Netflix has not yet announced an exact date. Netflix has not canceled the release of Prince Harry's Hearts of Invictus series. Representatives for Netflix told Newsweek that the show is still scheduled for release in summer 2023. So yes, it's still going forwards. And I had an inclination that it probably was. And there was a couple reasons why I thought this. So number one is they have paid Harry and Meghan for content, and they need content. And so unless it was horribly atrocious, there was something severely wrong with it, they weren't going to cancel it. It just didn't make a ton of sense to. And even though Harry and Meghan are a very, very toxic brand, yes, their initial documentary did good. And I think, although their second one crashed and burned, I think Netflix is hoping this one does okay. Now, granted, a lot has changed between when Harry and Meghan's documentary initially dropped and now. They're ever more unpopular. Nobody likes them really, except for the stands. And so because of that, the appeal of this documentary series, unfortunately, is very, very low. Now, if Netflix was smart, it would go to Harry and Meghan and go, okay, if you want this to air, we need to eliminate as much of the two of you as humanly possible, because unfortunately, nobody likes you. That is what, if I was Netflix, that's what I would be saying to Harry and Meghan, is drop yourselves. This may do better than we expect, and we're hoping for that. I don't know if Harry and Meghan can do it. I don't know if Meghan's ego, in particular, can handle it. If somebody goes, yeah, nobody likes you, so you really need to just drop this whole thing. And I'm sure she would be like, excuse me now, everybody loves me. I'm Meghan Markle. So I don't think that'll go particularly well if they have to give that news to her. Don't think she'll particularly like it. But that's how I think they have to go forward, is if you are going to do this. And again, they've paid money. They've paid a lot of money, potentially upwards. And I don't think Harry and Meghan got this in one fell swoop. Upwards of $100 million to retain them. So they want their pound of flesh. And yes, the one documentary did really well. But for $100 million, you're wanting 10 documentaries to do that well. I don't think they will. But unfortunately, Netflix is tied in, because the huge other news you have to consider is why Netflix would definitely not cancel this. It's the writer's strike, the potential producer strike, and the potential actors strike. So right now, the Writers Guild of America is on strike. That means that a lot of projects that have not been written yet, or TV series that still require more writing, are officially suspended for now. They are in a state of suspended animation. So they're not in production anymore. They're kind of technically, but not really. Then it's also come about that potentially the producers might go on strike. And if the producers go on strike, well, then definitely nothing's going to happen. And then if the actors go on strike, oh boy, the world is ending. Nothing will be going on. Now, for me personally, at this point, I don't really watch anything new out of Hollywood because I think most of it is absolute garbage anymore. It's so bad from a storytelling perspective, the vast majority of it. The only thing I'm looking forward to this year is Oppenheimer. That is it. Other than that, I have not gone to a movie theater since 2020, very early 2020. And I am a movie aficionado. I don't know everything, but I love movies. We would go to movies constantly, but Hollywood is terrible. So I'm not wringing my hands over this and in despair, because you can still watch Frasier, and that's about 10 times better than anything else they have on network television right now. But Netflix is looking at this going, okay, so we have some great series, but with the writers on strike, the producers potentially going on strike, and actors going on strike, why would they cancel a project that they could put up in the summer when they don't have anything else going on, or when things are starting to slow down because they don't have anything in production anymore? Of course they would let it go on. They can't really afford not to. So even if it's not great, even if it's not world-ending in terms of, and it's not going to be as good as their initial series, it's not going to hit Tinder Swindler numbers or anything like that, they're still going to let it go ahead. And again, this has some appeal, and I would love to watch it because, again, I would love to support our soldiers and I want to support them. But unfortunately, supporting them right now with the Invictus Games means supporting Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And I have a really, really hard time doing that because I don't like them. I don't like what they stand for. And I don't like that they've turned a charity into something for profit. That's what I don't like. And I think that's too why people will stay away, is because, again, people want this. When it was initially conceived, Harry wasn't making any money from it. Now he needs it to make money. He's making this documentary of it to make money for himself. I think that, again, that's really reprehensible on Harry's part. The third reason why it's still going to go forward, and perhaps why we haven't heard a lot of details, is Harry and Meghan's team, because they are so controversial and because people hate them so much, they usually generally don't announce details of the projects until like a week or two before they drop. And I think this is a similar instance. And you got to think as well, the Dusseldorf Games start in September. So what do you want to do is you want to release this documentary. I would say in mid to late August is probably when they'll drop it. I would imagine it's not going to be until August. If they dropped it on July 4th, that would be rather fascinating because Harry's a British soldier. So why would he drop the documentary on July 4th, which is about America and America's independence from you, Harry? Yes, we still are not on board with you being our pseudo prince. I'm so sorry. I know Meghan Markle, that breaks her little itty bitty heart that she cannot be our queen. But yeah, no, you guys need to stay in your little compound in Montecito and leave our government alone. So that could be a possibility, but I really think it'll be to promote the Dusseldorf Games. So it'll drop in, I would say mid to late August would be my guess. That way you have enough lead in time to hopefully generate buzz for Dusseldorf. But again, I don't think it'll generate that much buzz because nobody likes Harry and Meghan. So I think there's a real weird situation here where the Invictus Games really has to think about how to go forward and perhaps get rid of the current patrons that they have. Because honestly, I don't think Harry will let it go because I think Harry is still married to this idea of supporting the soldiers, which I get and understand. But unfortunately, he's no longer in the place where that looks like something he's doing altruistically. He's doing it for a PR stunt. He's doing it to generate money for himself. And that's when this thing can go off the rails for them. All that said, do I think Harry and Meghan's Netflix deal is probably in trouble? Why, yes, I think it is. Because we have no other project announced for Harry and Meghan. The Hearts of Invictus was, I think, even announced in 2020, 2021. So this thing has been languishing for quite a while. So what are the rest of the things Harry and Meghan are going to do? No clue. No clue. They don't seem to do anything. It's very strange. I mentioned this yesterday, I believe, or Monday or whenever it was. It's just, I don't know what they do all day with themselves. I really don't. And so we do have this problem here of they need to generate content, but how are they going to do that? They have no creative talent between the two of them. Meghan wants to create rom-coms, but I think has no idea how to do that, how to write them, how to create them, anything like that. She just thinks a rom-com is cool, and if she can get Julia Roberts, she's golden. And I'm like, honey, that's not how it works. You actually need to have a good script, a good talent pool to pull from. And you also need to be somebody who can recognize talent, which again, I don't think is Meghan Markle's skill set at all. I think the worst thing they could do is go back to Hollywood because because Meghan wasn't successful there in the first place. And I don't think a royal title has really changed that all that much. Yes, she has a lot more attention on herself, but she's also an epic self-disaster area. She self-implodes constantly. The New York taxi ride from hell is an example of that, where she thought she was playing this narrative about Diana and Harry and them being stalked by the press, and everybody's like, why are you having a high-speed chase in Manhattan where most people know you only go about, at the most 5 miles an hour? That just didn't make sense to anyone. It still doesn't make sense. And I think it's damaged severely their brand going forwards. And so Netflix is looking at them going, okay, so we've done your documentary series, which was the thing we really wanted, but we also wanted a more keeping up with the Sussexes things, not the overly produced thing you had. So they may still be pushing that on Harry and Meghan. But their other project, the Live to Lead or something like that, bombed spectacularly. And again, I'm not sure if they were given the project by Netflix, or they asked for the project, or they bought the project because it was mostly done by the time they received it and just added on their 2 bits. But nobody cared at all about that. And because of that, it's like, Netflix, I'm sure, is also thinking, well, we knew this thing about you guys in the Royals that would do well, but your next project was awful and nobody cared. So Netflix also could have been doing that as a tax write-off. They needed to get it done, or they knew it was bad and they just dropped it on January 31st when they knew nobody would watch it. Again, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes potentially that could be happening. But I think Hearts of the Invictus is a real test for Harry and Meghan. Can their brand sell a documentary where they're perhaps not the center of attention? Will this thing have legs, or will no one watch it? And will no one watch it because it's a subject people don't care about? They don't care about Harry and Meghan. What will be the reason this perhaps fails? It could be a myriad of situations, because even though their name is attached, it doesn't mean it's good. That doesn't mean people will watch. Even though it's about servicemen and women from all over the world, I would imagine if it focuses heavily on Harry, which it could, and Meghan, I don't think perhaps it will do very well, because even if they're supporting or trying to drum up publicity for the Dusseldorf Games, I think the Invictus Games, to a certain extent, again, is in trouble because their patrons are the most toxic duo in public right now. Harry and Meghan's brand is utter toxicity. Nobody likes them. Nobody wants to support them. And so to have a series like the Hearts of Invictus come up, where you're potentially pulling in service members to get perhaps ridiculed and mocked for participating with Harry and Meghan, I think a lot of people may think twice. And at the end of the day, too, Hollywood really is, to a certain extent, it's about connections, because obviously Kathleen Kennedy has completely crashed and burned at Lucasfilm. It seems like everything she touches is an epic disaster for them. So her connections, though, are impeccable. So even with connections, you can still perhaps not have the talent you believed you did. And so I think this is going to be a true test for Harry and Meghan. And if this doesn't do well, everything else for them might be on the chopping block, because they're difficult to work for. They go through staff members constantly. And Netflix, I'm sure, is like, unless you can give us something good consistently, because it also takes them way too long to produce anything, we're done. And I wonder if the same thing is going on with Spotify. Spotify has culled a lot of its staff members. It's not going to be as into podcasts as it was. And Harry and Meghan might definitely be on the chopping block. He has hardly done anything for them. He did one episode with Meghan where they actually had other people do the vast majority of the work. And they did some intros and exits and stuff like that. That's all they did. And Meghan's series Archetypes was boring, dull, added nothing to the conversation. And so I think they're too going, okay, you guys, we've done this rigmarole. You guys create a lot of noise, but not a lot of benefit to us. So I really do think Netflix, this is going to be the end-all be-all for them. If this is successful, Harry and Meghan can continue. But if it doesn't get the ratings it needs to, Netflix is like, you know what, we're just going to wipe our hands of this, because we don't need the drama, we don't need the stress, and we don't need the toxicity of the two of you, because you guys don't bring in Dave Chappelle numbers. Even though there's a certain segment of the population that hates him, more people like him. And I don't think Harry and Meghan fall in that camp. So guys, let me know what you think of this latest news. Let me know what you think of Harry and Meghan's documentary. Will it do well? Will it crash and burn? And how much will Harry be a fixture of it? Because if it's a lot, ooh, they got big problems. So guys, thank you so much for watching again, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.